Good morning, everyone. It's been a while. I've been on holiday in Thailand. I took the chance that I would be able to get back to Egypt through the Gulf. I'll be leaving on Friday, so I hope I'm able to get back in time. So many things have been happening, and it's sort of been good to take a break, but also frustrated just to see the amount of stupidity that goes on. And I think one of the most disheartening things I can check on right now is the percent of Americans in favor and supporting the war against Iran. It's almost 40%. Now, I'm not going to go over how the war started, but we know it had something, as Marco Rubio said, Israel was going to strike, so we want to strike with Israel, so Iran didn't strike back at us first. That was the very first thing that was mentioned. Of course, and then they went into weapons of mass destruction and fighting for democracy and all these things. Well, they seem to have settled on the nuclear scare because that's what they've been selling to America since the Cold War and the late 1940s, early 1950s. But to see that almost 40% of Americans support this war based on a whim. And when was it going to end? As you recall, Donald Trump said he'll feel it. And since then, he's had people that are not trained negotiators negotiating with Iran. And just the stupidity of watching Donald Trump, because he has to be Donald Trump. He has to lie and try and take credit for things that haven't happened. Well, he's not dealing with some contractor that he's trying to stiff out of renovation costs for one of his buildings. He's dealing with Iran, and they're not going to go along with his games. So every time, even if they are making progress, and then Donald Trump comes out and has to beat his chest and say that he won, well, Iran's immediately going to say, no, you didn't. You just made stuff up and we didn't agree to it. If he wasn't such a boastful, arrogant a-hole, this could have been fixed and solved a long time ago. But he has to try and start a fire and then take credit for putting it out. And again, the sad part of this is that almost 40%, 38% of Americans say, yeah, it's a good idea to attack Iran. So the last point I want to make today is just this idea and belief that Americans feel they can bomb and attack whomever they want, as long as they feel they have a reason. And in most cases, the reason is we're protecting ourselves from things that don't exist. We're protecting ourselves from the boogeyman. And I was just watching a show that was showing how the American education system has failed. And I think that's correct in a lot of countries, that people are just politically stupid and naive. And I was watching another clip a while ago where Americans are shocked that the rest of the world hates them and doesn't trust them. And that's because of just the propaganda that they're fed constantly and telling themselves that they're number one. They're not number one in anything that's a good, health index. They're number one in weapons, I think, and incarcerations. But it's just so frustrating. I remember one time when I was in Canada, I was part of a group and we're developing a new curriculum for global politics. And I remember one time saying that this should be mandatory course. And the government officials were saying, well, no, it's not going to be mandatory. It's going to be an option. And I said, but we should have an educated public. We should have an educated voting group on national, local, and international politics. And the government was saying, no, it will not be mandatory. And I said, well, maybe the government doesn't want it mandatory. Maybe they don't want a well-educated public, and the government didn't like that. But there has to be more education so people are aware everywhere, not just the United States.